In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You have to ask the question, in the beginning of what? In the beginning of the new covenant system, the new covenant era. This is known as the new creation that Paul talks about. So John 1:1 is not referring to the beginning of the whole creation account, the whole universe, the whole earth, the whole world, the first human. It's not referring to that time frame. How do we know this? Because we can source text this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 says the same thing. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We recognize from verse 2 and onward that creation had already existed, because we know that empty, void, formless actually means dysfunction, not that there was nothing there. So in Genesis 1:1, we are recognizing that it is referring to the old covenant system era, that time frame. You're talking about 6,000 years ago, roughly, 6,000 to 4,000 years ago. They're referring to this beginning of a whole new, covenantal system that God had promised Adam, the father of Mesopotamia. Hey, I'm going to be your God. You're going to be my people. You're going to be a priesthood of a nation, and you're going to represent me so that you can bless the nations. This was the promise, that I am going to dwell with you. I'm going to be with you. This was the promise. So this is the word. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Heavens and the earth, we already know that heaven was the temple system and that the earth was the capital, which was Jerusalem, right? And so the heaven and the earth was the old heaven and the earth, represented in Genesis as the old covenantal system. Now we go into the New Testament time frame of John chapter 1, where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That Word was God is not referring to Jesus. The Word was God is referring to this covenantal promise that he had with his people. This was the Word. Jesus doesn't even come in the picture in John chapter 1, all the way to, the very first verses of that chapter. Jesus doesn't even come in the picture. Then you have John the Baptist, then Jesus. And Jesus is known as the light, just like in Genesis where it says God said, let there be light, the covenant man. And the darkness was the apostate man, right? So there was this contrast here. So Jesus is the light, but God is the word, Logos. It is his promise. You can trust him. He is faithful. He will stand on that word. And this in the beginning context, we're now realizing, is a covenantal context. It's not a physical creation. How do we know this? We can do another proof text of Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, where John, the same author of the Gospel John, he is saying what? He says, I saw the old heaven, and I saw the new heaven and the new earth coming down, and that the old heaven and the old earth had passed away, meaning the old covenantal system under Moses had passed away, because the new covenantal system with Jesus had come on the scene. This is in the beginning context, folks, and it will open up your eyes to understand better the reference and the meaning of what this word is. The word is God, the Father, and he shared that word with all of the prophets, with the Messiah, with Jesus, and then Jesus carried that word, right? And he was that new headship under the new covenantal system. It wasn't under Moses anymore. And so this word, we have to realize it's talking about God himself and that it came from God. But Jesus was not that word. It's not the reference point in John 1:1. In fact, when you read the second verse, it says in a lot of the translations, he was with God from the beginning. But that is a pronoun, and it could be he, she, it, this, that. It could be any of those. And in a numerous amount of English translations, it doesn't say he, it just says the word was with God from the beginning, or the promise was with God from the beginning. This was with God from the beginning. And we know that, not the beginning of the world, creation world, but the beginning of the old covenantal system in Genesis and the beginning of the new covenantal system in what? The New Testament, or the new covenantal time frame that we're talking about. So when we look into Mark chapter 1, verse 1, it says that the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And we know that Son of God is just a title. It is not a reference of deity. In ancient times, the God kings were known as these deities, but it was just a divine title, not literally that they were divine, right? So it's just a title and a position. And Mark actually gives an understanding of what time this is, of in the beginning of what. It's just talking about Jesus's ministry. That was the new covenantal time frame, right? So he says again in and in Mark chapter 1, verse 1, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, he actually tells you what is the beginning. What beginning are we talking about? He's talking about the beginning of the new covenant. And then when we look into First John, okay, verse 1, he says that which was from the beginning of the new covenant system, which we have heard. We, meaning the audience, have heard it, meaning that they had to be alive. This is the first century, folks. This isn't from the beginning of the world. Which we have heard, with which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and have touched with our hands concerning the word of life. The life was made manifest, and we have seen it and testified to and proclaimed to you the eternal life, which was with the Father and was made manifest to us. That which we have seen and heard, we proclaim also to you, so that you too may have fellowship with us. And indeed, our fellowship is with the Father and with His Son, Jesus Christ. And we are writing these things so that our joy may be complete. So in the beginning of what? In the beginning of the new covenantal system. That's John 1:1. What is the Word? The Word was the promise of God. So God was that Word. It was manifested in the person of Jesus. And that Word is what is being manifested and fleshed out for that generation, for those 40 years, from 30 AD to 70 AD. That is what they're experiencing, and they're writing about it here in John 1:1. So what was in the beginning? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the promise of the Father. I will dwell among you. I will be with you. I will be your God. You will be my people. That is the Word. The Word was God, not Jesus. The Word was God.